Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are undertaking something pretty fundamental, I think. We're basically going to challenge everything you thought you knew about winning, about getting ahead, about always being right. We want to show you why maybe, just maybe, the most successful people, the genuinely content ones, are those who consciously choose to, step back a bit, take the quieter path. We are diving deep into humility. Now, that's a word, isn't it? Universally praised, sure, but I think profoundly misunderstood. For a lot of us, humility probably sounds like, weakness, or maybe being a doormat. We're taught from day one that life's a competition, right? You got to be the best, prove yourself, dominate, always dominate. But what if that whole mindset, that constant drive, what if it's actually counterproductive?
Exactly. And what if it's draining your happiness, messing up your relationships, maybe even holding you back professionally?
So our mission today is to kind of redefine humility. Not the Sunday school version, but humility as like practical wisdom, a strategy almost.
Right.
We want to show that choosing to yield, to let go of being right, isn't surrender. It's actually maybe the smart move, the shortcut to lasting prosperity and real peace.
And we're not just making this up. We're drawing on some pretty heavy hitters, 2,500 years of ancient philosophy, plus the latest findings from, modern psychology, hard data.
Okay, so let's paint a picture. I think we've all been here. Imagine two people arguing. Could be anyone, a couple, colleagues at work, whatever. And they're arguing over something totally trivial, like the absolute best route to drive somewhere. Or the classic how to load the dishwasher correctly. You know the one.
Oh, the dishwasher wars.
Yeah.
Yes. A true battleground. Mugs on top or bottom. Lives depend on it, apparently.
Right. And they get heated. Voices go up. They need to win this point. They need that moral superiority over the placement of cutlery.
It becomes this whole thing.
And then finally, one person gives in. Maybe they just get tired, or the other person is just louder. What happens then?
Well, the winner, quote unquote, walks away.
Yeah.
But how do they feel?
Exactly. They feel tense, right? Still kind of annoyed, stressed even. And the relationship, it's taken a tiny hit, a little micro tear.
It was a victory that feels suspiciously like a defeat emotionally. Why is that?
That's the core question, isn't it?
It really is. That anecdote just perfectly frames the conflict we're digging into. We seem to be, hardwired as humans to seek status, to compete, to prove we're somehow better, higher up the ladder. We have this really deep need to show we're right, we're superior. But what all our source material points to across centuries is this kind of unavoidable truth. The people who are constantly trying to prove they're better, the ones obsessed with winning every little argument, needing that constant pat on the back, they often report the highest levels of internal misery.
Wow. So the harder you try to look strong,
the weaker you might feel inside.
Yeah.
And the opposite holds too. When you choose to yield, to let go of that fight, you actually conserve energy. You build real resilience.
Okay, but hang on. That raises a big question for me and probably for a lot of people listening. When we talk about yielding, letting go, isn't that just being a pushover? How do we tell the difference between this strategic wisdom of humility and just letting people walk all over you, avoidance?
That's a crucial distinction, absolutely crucial. Genuine humility isn't about having a low opinion of yourself, not at all. It's about having a low preoccupation with yourself.
Okay, say more about that, low preoccupation.
Right, a doormat acts out of fear, maybe, or a lack of self-worth. They feel they have to give in. The truly humble person, though, they operate from a place of inner security. They choose not to fight. They recognize that most fights, especially ego-driven ones, are just distractions. They're not avoiding conflict out of fear. They're choosing peace, or maybe efficiency, over the temporary thrill of being right. It's an active choice, a strategic one, not just passive retreat.
Okay, that makes sense. An active choice. So let's dive into that idea you mentioned, energy conservation, because that feels really practical. Our sources talk about this huge psychological burden, this mental tax we pay every single day just defending our ego.
It's immense. Think about it.
We spend so much mental energy justifying things we did in the past, defending opinions we hold right now, planning our comebacks and arguments.
Preparing those verbal counterattacks.
Yeah, and constantly maneuvering to make sure we look smart, successful, like we've got it all figured out. Infallible.
If we want to use the technical term here, we're talking about cognitive load. Your brain has a limited amount of processing power each day, right? Finite bandwidth for making good decisions, for focusing.
Like RAM on a computer.
Exactly like RAM. And when you're constantly running that background program, protect ego, at all costs, it eats up a significant chunk of that RAM. That cognitive load is high.
Which means less power for other stuff.
Precisely. less energy available for creativity, for deep thinking, for actually solving problems, for planning long term. It's a massive drain. Think of it like if 30% of your mental bandwidth is tied up worrying about what Sarah thinks of your comment in the meeting, or crafting the perfect defense for why you bought that stock.
Uh-oh. Been there.
Right. That 30% is completely unavailable for learning that new software or figuring out that tricky client issue. So the immediate payoff of humility, just letting go of needing to be right, is freeing up that bandwidth instantly.
Okay, that's liberating just thinking about it. If I don't have to mentally prepare my defense for why my dishwasher loading method is superior.
Haha, yes. You can use that energy to, I don't know, actually think about your presentation tomorrow. Or just relax for a minute.
The shift sounds huge.
It is radical. When you drop that defensive stance, suddenly other people stop looking like threats. They aren't potential critics waiting to expose your flaws anymore.
They become what?
Potential teachers, sources of information. Conflicts aren't battles to be won. They become learning opportunities. You literally shift from being defensive and rigid to being curious and adaptable.
Psychologists call that cognitive flexibility, right?
High cognitive flexibility, yes.
Yeah.
You can take in new information without immediately running it through the filter of how does this affect my status? How does this make me look?
Okay, but here's where it gets even trickier, I think. The deadly trap of needing external validation. This feels deeper than just winning arguments.
Oh, it's much more insidious.
It's that deep, almost unconscious psychological need to be noticed, acknowledged, praised by everyone else.
It creates this constant state of emotional vulnerability, doesn't it?
Totally. Think about the specifics, right? You post something great online, an achievement, a nice photo, and then what? You're checking constantly for likes, that little dopamine hit.
Waiting for the praise after you tell a story or finish a big project at work.
Even the way we dress sometimes, or the car we drive, we're hoping for compliments, for that external thumbs up that says, yeah, you're okay, you're valuable.
And what does that do? It effectively hands over the remote control for your own emotional state to other people. Complete strangers sometimes.
You're not in charge of your own joy anymore.
Not at all. You become, like you said earlier, a leaf in the wind. You're up when praised, crushed when criticized, and totally anxious when ignored, which might be the worst.
It's psychological slavery, basically, chasing external recognition.
It forces you to rely on extrinsic motivation, the reward, the applause, the gold star. But we know that true sustainable excellence, the really deep work, comes from intrinsic motivation, doing it because the work itself matters to you.
And the truly humble person, they don't need the applause because the work, or just being authentic, is its own reward. Which brings us to that great example, the craftsman.
Ah, the furniture maker. Yes, beautiful story.
This guy spends decades, literally decades, making absolutely stunning bespoke furniture. Pieces that were just works of art built to last forever.
Meticulous.
But here's the key part, his philosophy. He never signed his pieces, never entered them in awards, never hired a PR person. His marketing was purely quiet word of mouth.
His entire focus was on the craft itself, the quality of the joinery, the feel of the wood, the elegance of the design. He was driven by his internal standard of excellence. He wasn't chasing fame, he was chasing mastery.
And the irony.
The irony is that his reputation grew far wider and lasted much longer than many of his contemporaries who were busy promoting themselves. People recognized the quiet, inherent quality. They knew the motivation was pure.
That focus on quality, done without needing everyone to notice, created this incredibly valuable reputation. Genuine trust. That's worth way more than any marketing campaign in the long run.
Absolutely. Real success sustains success.
What's amazing is how this modern psychological, cognitive load validation traps is basically just putting clinical terms on wisdom that's ancient, like thousands of years old.
It really is. This isn't a new idea we just cooked up. We're talking about insights that resonated 2,500 years ago, hitting the exact same points about yielding and finding strength.
You're talking about Lao Tzu.
Indeed. If we look at the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu and the ideas in the Tao Te Ching, his central teaching on humility often uses the analogy of water.
Right, water always flows downward.
Exactly. He argued the wise person should strive to be like water. Water always seeks the lowest places, the spots others might look down on, right? Yet what does it do?
It nourishes everything, all life.
It nourishes all life, and over time, it wears away the hardest stone. Water doesn't fight gravity. It accepts the lower position, And by doing so, it gathers strength, becomes incredibly powerful, and achieves its aims through essentially yielding and persistence.
That flips the script entirely. It's not weakness to take the lower place. It's how you gain ultimate influence, like water shaping the landscape.
Precisely. It's a profound understanding of how power really works. And in Taoism, this attitude connects to the concept of wu wei,
Wu wei, that's like non-action.
often translated that way, or maybe effortless action. It's not about laziness or doing nothing. It's about acting in harmony with the natural flow of things without forcing your ego onto the situation.
So less striving, less fighting against the current.
Yes. The humble person practicing wu wei often achieves more by forcing less because they're working with reality instead of constantly battling it.
And the mind-blowing part is that modern science, with its fMRIs and statistical analysis, is basically arriving at the exact same conclusion. You might dismiss humility as just, a nice moral idea.
A soft skill.
Right. But the data is incredibly strong. Personality psychology studies consistently show that people who score high on humility scales things like being willing to admit you're wrong, having an accurate view of yourself.
Not inflated, not deflated, just accurate.
Those people consistently report greater life satisfaction.
Yeah.
They have stronger, more stable relationships. They have significantly better mental health overall. Their resilience comes from within, not from external approval.
And practically speaking, they're also better learners and more effective professionals. Why? Because they're more likely to seek out feedback, even criticism. They admit mistakes quickly instead of digging in. They pivot when a strategy isn't working.
It's that growth mindset idea, isn't it? Believing you can improve versus the fixed mindset where you have to constantly defend your current level of smartness.
Exactly. The fixed mindset person hears criticism as, you are permanently flawed. The humble growth mindset person hears it as, here's some data I can use to get better. Big difference.
Which probably explains why pretty much every major spiritual or ethical tradition on Earth, developed independently, lands on humility as being absolutely essential for growth.
It's a universal principle.
Think about Buddhism and letting go of the ego, the concept of anatta or non-self, seeing the ego as the source of suffering.
Or Christianity's emphasis on being meek and humble of heart, prioritizing service over status.
Or Islam, which literally means submission to something greater than oneself.
The common thread everywhere is recognizing that the self-obsessed ego, that constant need to be right and important, is the root cause of so much conflict and inner turmoil.
Though humility isn't just a virtue.
It's the prerequisite for any real transformation. If you think you already know everything, if you think you're perfect, well, you can't learn, can you? You can't grow. Accepting imperfection, being willing to take that lower position, like water, that's what opens the door.
Okay, this idea that yielding equals strength, that's still the big mental hurdle for me. Our instinct screams the opposite, right? Power is hard, rigid, unmovable.
Deeply ingrained.
But let's step outside human ego for a second and look at nature, or even physics. The analogy of the oak tree versus the bamboo is perfect here.
Yes, tell us about that.
Well, the oak tree is mighty, right? Huge, solid, impressive, seems like the definition of strength. But what happens when a really big storm hits?
A hurricane.
Often, it's the biggest, most rigid oaks that snap. They resist the force directly, and that resistance becomes their breaking point. And the bamboo, it looks almost fragile in comparison. Thin, flexible.
But its strength is in that very flexibility. It yields. It bends with the wind, sometimes almost flat to the ground. It distributes the stress.
Doesn't fight the wind, it flows with it. And then?
It springs right back up when the storm passes. It endures precisely because it yields. True strength, sustainable strength, is often flexible. Rigidity is just brittleness waiting to happen.
That concept plays out in our daily lives too, turning stressful fights into, well, something else. Which brings us to that bus driver story. Fascination.
Yes, the stressed out bus driver. Early in his career, apparently every single day was a battle. Constant stress.
Fighting with passengers.
Constantly. If someone was rude, took too long getting on, complained about the route, he'd argue right back. Defend the rules, make sure he got the last word. He always won.
But at what cost?
Exactly. He won the arguments but lost his peace. He was angry all the time, completely drained by the end of his shift, couldn't sleep well, his body was basically stuck in fight or flight mode.
So what changed?
He decided to try an experiment based on this very principle of yielding. He just stopped fighting. Completely.
Yeah. What did he do when someone got angry?
Instead of arguing back, he started using simple, non-defensive phrases, things that acknowledge the other person's feeling without agreeing with their complaint or getting hooked into the fight.
Like what? Give me an example.
Things like, thank you for letting me know, or maybe, I understand your concern, I appreciate you sharing that. Simple, calm. He took his own ego completely out of it, refused to play the game.
He didn't pick up the rope, basically.
Couldn't pick up the rope. And the results were apparently immediate and profound. His own stress plummeted, slept better, felt better. But here's the kicker.
What happened with the passengers?
They actually became less aggressive, more cooperative, significantly so.
Why?
Because a fight needs two people, right? When he yielded, refused to engage on that level, their anger had nowhere to land. Plus, and this is key, they felt heard. Even if he didn't agree, the simple act of acknowledgement diffused the situation. His humility gave him more control, paradoxically.
Okay, that works with strangers on a bus.
Yeah.
But what about the really high-stakes relationships? Family, partners. The dynamic feels different. Often, a parent or partner feels they have to be right to maintain authority or respect.
That's the common trap, yes.
Yeah.
And it almost always backfires, leading to resentment and pushback.
So how does humility work there? We have that story about the father and the fishing trip.
Right. The father had promised his 10-year-old son a fishing trick, something the son was really looking forward to. Then last minute, a work crisis comes up, and he has to cancel.
Okay, typical situation. What's the ego instinct there?
The ego instinct is to defend and minimize, right? Hey, it's just fishing, we'll go next month, don't be so dramatic, work is important, make excuses, justify, protect yourself from looking bad.
But he didn't do that.
He resisted that urge. He chose humility instead. He sat down with his son, looked him in the eye, and gave a completely sincere apology. No excuses, no justifications.
What did he say?
Something like, son, I made you a promise and I broke it. I am truly sorry. I know how much this meant to you and I let you down. That wasn't right.
Wow, it takes guts. How did the son react?
The son was apparently surprised. He didn't use it as leverage, didn't get angry. He just looked at his dad and said something amazing. He said, Dad, I respect you more now because you admitted you were wrong.
Whoa.
That's the core insight, isn't it? The father's humility didn't weaken his authority. It actually strengthened it, made it more authentic. He modeled integrity, vulnerability. That builds a much stronger bond than pretending to be infallible ever could.
That's powerful. Okay, let's shift this to the workplace.
Yeah.
The corporate world, business arguably, the place where competition seems most essential.
The ultimate arena for ego, some might say.
And the old leadership model, the one many of us grew up with or still see, it's the boss who rules by fear, right? Never admits they're wrong, always has to be the smartest person in the room.
That model is dying out, thankfully. Or at least its effectiveness is plummeting. Because what did it create?
Fear, paralysis, people hiding mistakes.
Exactly. Paralysis and cover-ups. People were too scared to take risks, innovate, or admit they messed up. So when mistakes inevitably happened, all the energy went into hiding them or blaming someone else. Toxic.
The effective modern leader gets that real power, comes from trust,
Right.
from intellectual openness on the team, not from being scary.
Which brings us to psychological safety. That crucial idea that people need to feel safe to speak up, challenge things, admit failure without fearing punishment or humiliation.
And the key ingredient for creating that safety.
It almost always starts with the leader's humility.
There's that great anecdote about the CEO who turned his company culture around, moved it from being stuck and bureaucratic to being innovative. And he did it by changing one simple question.
Yeah, tell us that one.
Whenever something went wrong, a project failed, a mistake cost money, instead of asking, who screwed this up? Or whose fault is this? His first question, to himself and the team, was always, okay, what did I do that contributed to this situation?
Think about the signal that sends. Instantly.
It shifts everything from blame to responsibility, right?
Completely. The most powerful person in the room starts by looking at their own role. It immediately makes it safe for everyone else to say, okay, I might have contributed too, let's figure this out together.
The energy flips.
Dramatically. People stop wasting time on office politics and CYA maneuvers, and they start using that energy to actually solve the underlying problems, to innovate. Performance improves significantly. It proved that ego protection is just a massive brake on getting things done.
And beyond the team dynamic, humility makes individuals better performers too, especially now when things change so fast, because of the learning advantage.
Absolutely critical. If you feel like you constantly have to prove how smart you are, you're basically stuck defending what you already know. You can't easily learn new things.
But the humble person, they're free to be a lifelong student.
Right. They can ask the dumb questions without feeling embarrassed. They can look at new information objectively without their ego getting defensive. They don't waste mental energy protecting outdated beliefs. They achieve what you might call cognitive velocity.
Ooh, I like that. Cognitive velocity, the speed of learning.
Exactly. How fast you can absorb, process, and adapt to new information. Humility boosts that speed.
This ties into that idea of strategic ignorance from the entrepreneur.
Perfect example. This incredibly successful entrepreneur attributes a lot of his success not to being a genius, but to being willing to look like he isn't.
How does that work?
He makes it a rule, apparently, to ask at least one really basic, maybe even obvious-seeming question in every single meeting he's in, no matter how simple the answer might be.
Even if he probably knows the answer.
Sometimes, yeah. He calls it strategic ignorance. It's a chosen vulnerability. He actually said, I'd rather look ignorant for 5 minutes than stay ignorant for 5 years.
That's brilliant.
Because by asking those basic questions, he often uncovers hidden assumptions or things people were glossing over or critical flaws everyone else was too embarrassed to point out. It let him adapt his business constantly while competitors were stuck defending old strategies because their egos wouldn't let them admit they might have missed something fundamental.
Okay, let's talk about another huge source of modern angst that humility directly addresses. The comparison game.
Oh, the comparison trap. It's brutal.
We're constantly doing it, aren't we? Measuring ourselves against others. Our house versus the neighbor's bigger one. Our salary versus a coworker's. Our kids' achievements.
Oh, God, the kids' achievements.
It's an endless, unwinnable game because the goalposts always move. There will always be someone with a fancier vacation, a newer gadget, a more perfect-looking life online. Always.
So you're trapped. Either you feel superior for a minute, but you're anxious about losing that spot.
Or you feel inferior, and then you're just resentful and bitter.
Yeah.
Neither state is pleasant or sustainable. And it's fueled by this false idea that success or happiness is like a limited pie, right? And your slice only matters relative to how big someone else's is.
Exactly. Plus, online, you're comparing your behind-the-scenes reality to everyone else's curated highlight reel. It's a recipe for misery.
So how does humility help you escape this?
Humility is the escape hatch because it fundamentally redefines your worth as intrinsic, not relative. When you humbly accept that everyone's path is different, everyone has different gifts, different timing, you just start playing the measurement game.
You opt out.
You opt out. You become content with your own journey, your own progress, based on your internal compass, not external benchmarks.
This reminds me of that lovely story about the elderly woman.
The woman in the cottage, yes.
She lived in this small, simple house, apparently for decades. And the neighborhood around her gentrified like crazy. Huge modern mansions popped up all around her little cottage.
You'd assume she'd feel bitter, right? Left behind. Inferior.
That's what outsiders thought. But she was completely content, found her joy in her garden, her books, her simple routine. And when someone asked about all the giant houses around her, she said something amazing.
What was it?
She just said, really sincerely, "Oh, I'm happy they have such nice homes. That's their blessing. I have my peace, my home, my health. We all have what we need."
Wow. She just wasn't playing the game. Her humility freed her from needing more than others to feel worthy. She had a quiet contentment that money couldn't touch.
That contentment really is the ultimate prize.
It is. Now, let's connect this to something related but slightly different. Recognition addiction.
Okay, what's that?
It's that subtle, nagging need to have everything you do acknowledged, praised, validated. It leads to scorekeeping, especially in relationships and at work.
Ah, right. Like, I did this. Did anyone notice?
Exactly. You only do things expecting the payment of acknowledgement. The employee who gets furious because their idea wasn't publicly credited to them, the parent who needs constant thank yous for just parenting, the friend keeping a mental tally of who initiated the last 5 calls.
It turns everything into a transaction. Contribution becomes conditional.
And when the recognition doesn't come, which it often doesn't because people are busy or just don't realize you expect it, what happens? You get bitter. You feel entitled, resentful. It poisons things.
So the humble approach, how does that work without just feeling unseen?
The humble person focuses on the intrinsic value. They do good work because the work itself matters or because it needs doing. They help because helping is the right thing to do, not to rack up points or gratitude.
They separate the action from the expected reward of praise.
Precisely. Their motivation is clean. And here's the paradox again. By not seeking appreciation, they often end up getting more genuine respect and influence in the long run.
Like the doctor volunteering at the free clinic.
Perfect example. This doctor spends significant time volunteering, but never mentions it, doesn't post about it, doesn't bring it up in conversation, refuses interviews.
Why so quiet?
When someone asked, his answer was simple. I don't do it to be appreciated. I do it because there's a need and it needs to be done. Just pure intrinsic motivation.
And the effect.
That quiet dedication apparently inspired several other doctors to start volunteering too. His humility, his lack of needing applause made him a more powerful influence than any self-promotion ever could have. He led by not trying to lead.
Amazing. Let's talk about authority and power more directly, because humility seems counterintuitive there too.
Totally. The traditional view is the boss, the parent, the expert. They maintain power by never admitting they're wrong. Showing weakness is seen as fatal.
Infallibility equals authority.
That's the belief. But our sources, and frankly, modern leadership studies, show the exact opposite is true. That kind of rigid infallibility actually erodes trust over time.
Yeah.
Because it's not authentic. Nobody's infallible.
So admitting mistakes, that builds trust.
Absolutely. Think about it. The parent who apologizes for yelling. The boss who says, you know what, I was wrong. I should have listened to your idea. That demonstrates integrity, vulnerability. Those are magnetic qualities. They build real authority based on trust, not fear.
We saw that with the school principal example too.
Right. Her school was struggling low scores, teacher burnout. The typical response might be to find who to blame, right? Which teachers aren't pulling their weight.
But she didn't do that.
No. She gathered her staff and started by asking, okay, let's look at this systemically. What did I do in my role as principal that might have contributed to this situation?
Taking ownership first.
By taking that humble stance first, she signaled, this isn't about blame, it's about finding solutions together. It made it safe for everyone else to step up and say, okay, maybe my department could do this better. Or, I struggled with that new policy. The whole culture shifted from defense to collaboration. Her humility unlocked the solution.
We absolutely have to apply this to our digital lives now. Social media seems like the ultimate amplifier for ego and validation seeking.
Oh, it's ground zero, isn't it? Fundamentally, it's often a platform for crafting the perfect image, projecting success, seeking likes as proof of worth, constant comparison.
So how does humble scrolling work? Is that even possible?
I think it is. It means changing your internal filter. Scrolling with humility could mean genuinely feeling happy for someone else's success you see posted instead of that instant pang of envy.
Easier said than done sometimes.
True, but it's a conscious choice. It means maybe sharing more authentic moments, struggles included, rather than just the highlight reel, using it for real connection, not just competition. That shift can make the online world feel less like a source of constant anxiety.
And then there are intimate relationships. This need to be right. It's just poison in a partnership, isn't it?
Absolutely lethal over the long term. Couples who genuinely love each other can end up locked in these bitter, exhausting battles over nothing. The right way to fold towels, which way the toilet paper goes.
Because it's never about the towels, is it?
Never. It's about whose way is correct, whose opinion matters more, whose ego wins this round. It becomes a power struggle disguised as a domestic dispute.
So the humble shift in a relationship.
It's about prioritizing connection over correctness. Instead of jumping to, you're wrong, maybe try, okay, help me understand why you see it that way. Shifting the language.
Moving from accusation to curiosity.
Exactly. And dropping the scorekeeping. Instead of, I did the dishes last time, just focusing on, okay, what needs doing now? How can we tackle this together? The humble partner, the one willing to yield on the small stuff, paradoxically wins more affection, more cooperation, more real intimacy, because they create safety. It stops being me versus you and becomes us versus the problem.
Okay, finally, let's connect all this to something undeniable. Our physical health. This isn't just psychological. It has biological consequences.
This is where it gets really stark. The medical research is crystal clear on this. That constant need to defend yourself, prove you're right, anxiously seek validation. It puts your body into a state of chronic low-grade stress, a perpetual battle footing.
You mean the fight or flight response?
Constantly simmering. When your ego feels threatened all the time, your stress response system, the HPA axis, is working overtime. Your body gets flooded with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline day in, day out.
And that chronic stress, it's not just unpleasant, it does actual damage.
Serious damage. Chronic high cortisol is directly linked to a higher risk of heart disease, a weaker immune system, chronic inflammation throughout the body, depression, anxiety, the list goes on. You are literally physically harming yourself by constantly fighting these ego battles.
Wow. So humility isn't just nice, it's healthy.
It's profoundly healing physically. When you make the conscious choice to stop fighting all those battles, internal and external, when you let go of needing to win every single point, your nervous system finally gets a break. It can downregulate.
HPA axis calms down.
Exactly. Your blood pressure can lower, your sleep improves, your immune system can actually focus on keeping you healthy instead of being on high alert 24/7. Humility is a fundamental commitment to your own biological and mental well-being.
Okay, let's try and wrap this up. Let's restate that core paradox about success one more time.
Right. The counterintuitive truth is that humble people often end up being more successful in the long run, not just happier. Why? Because they're more coachable. People want to help them. They're more collaborative. They build trust easily because their motives aren't constantly questioned.
People want to work with them.
Exactly. Opportunities flow towards them. Mentors are drawn to them. That inherent trustworthiness is like a magnet. They don't generate the friction and resentment that the aggressive, ego-driven person inevitably does. It's just easier to be around them, support them, promote them.
Making this shift, it doesn't have to be some massive overnight personality change, right?
Mhm.
It's about small choices, daily practices.
Absolutely. It's built moment by moment.
So let's give everyone listening a practical challenge, something concrete to try, maybe just for the next day or the next week.
Okay, what's the challenge?
All right, challenge one. The next time someone disagrees with you and you feel that heat rising, that urge to jump in and correct them, just pause, take a breath, and instead say something like, that's an interesting way to look at it. Tell me more about why you think that. Just listen.
Okay, challenge two. When someone gives you criticism, maybe feedback at work or even a comment from a family member, and even if your first reaction is, that's totally unfair, try just saying, okay, thank you for the feedback. I'll definitely think about that. And then actually do. Consider if there's a grain of truth.
And the big one, maybe.
The third challenge, when you feel that powerful, competitive urge welling up inside you to win some trivial point, to prove you're right about something that ultimately doesn't matter, stop, breathe, and ask yourself this one question.
Is being right here, right now, truly more important than having peace?
Just asking the question can change everything.
Let's circle back to Lao Tzu's promise. The wise are joyful, the virtuous are long-lived. It sounds like what he meant was, when you learn to be like water, humble, yielding, flowing naturally, you gain the things that really matter.
Inner peace, genuine joy, strong, authentic connections, that deep satisfaction of living in alignment with how things actually are instead of constantly fighting reality.
Humility, then, it's not about thinking less of yourself.
No, it's the ultimate act of self-confidence. It's about becoming so secure in your own intrinsic worth that you simply don't need constant external validation to feel okay.
The paradox holds. The more you humbly focus on the truth, on the task, on serving others, the greater you become. Not necessarily famous or powerful in the world's eyes,
but greater in your own sense of peace, your resilience, your ability to handle whatever life throws at you. Your internal landscape becomes stronger.
Remember that image. Water doesn't brute force its way through the rock. It flows around it, seeps into the cracks, and over time, that gentle, yielding pressure changes the entire landscape.
The real goal isn't to win every single argument. It's to win at life.
And sometimes, maybe often, the most strategic, most powerful way to win at life
is to simply stop fighting altogether.
We hope this deep dive gives you maybe a little bit of courage or just some food for thought about letting go of a few of those exhausting battles this week.